Hey, it's Julia, and today I'm here to talk to you about one of the biggest reasons your content might not be converting on LinkedIn. But before we get into today's episodes, I want to share with you a quick podcast review from a listener. This is from LA Don One, who says, "Simple, digestible, actionable. A fantastic podcast, easy to follow and packed with hints and tips to bring your LinkedIn profile up to date. Afterwards, I booked a call with Julia, who really helped me identify where my profile could improve. I know I will listen to this podcast again and again until my LinkedIn is where it needs to be for maximum impact. Highly recommend." Thank you so much for this review. It really means a lot. And if you've been enjoying the podcast, I'd really appreciate if you'd leave me a review on Apple Podcasts. It helps more people discover the show and keeps me motivated to continue to record these episodes. Now, let's get into today's show. Last week, we talked about low engagement and what you can do to proactively increase your visibility on LinkedIn and build more relationships. Today, I want to talk to you about one of the main reasons your content may not be converting, and it's an issue I usually help my clients fix right at the start of working together. And what I'm talking about is positioning. And what I mean by positioning is making sure that your profile and your content position you as a go-to expert. Most of the clients I work with think they've done a good job at positioning, but when we get into the nitty gritty, there's tons of room for improvement. And the reason it matters so much is that strong positioning signals to the algorithm that you're an authority in your field. And it also helps people find you, and it helps build trust with the people that are already following you. So, how do you know if your positioning is off, and what can you do to fix it? So, the first thing is that if you're posting consistently every single week, but nothing is happening, like you're getting no engagement, nobody is clicking on your profile to check you out, and you're not hearing from your friends, colleagues, or peers who say, "I see you in my feed all the time. Your content is amazing," right? If you're not getting that offline feedback, if you're seeing very little engagement, if people aren't clicking on your profile, these are signs that your positioning might be weak. And most of the time, it's because your content is too broad. It's not really clear who you're speaking to and what you're helping them achieve. Which is super common, by the way, because it's hard to see the forest for the trees when it comes to your own content and profile. So here's something I want you to do. Go back and look at your last 5 to 10 LinkedIn posts. Does your hook, which is the first part of your post before you get to the read more cutoff, does that hook position you as an expert or call out your target audience? Because if it doesn't, the people who need you most are probably not realizing that you're talking to them. This matters because your hook is the most important part of your LinkedIn post. It signals to the LinkedIn algorithm and to LinkedIn users who your post is for and why someone should stop scrolling and click that read more button. If that's not clear from your hook, LinkedIn isn't going to push your content out further to people who are interested in the type of content that you provide. And also, your audience is less likely to stop scrolling and engage with your content because they're not going to realize it's for them. You also need to remember that absolutely nobody sees every single post that you publish. The LinkedIn algorithm doesn't show your content to all of your followers. Plus, people are busy. They don't log into the platform every day, they're distracted. And so your hooks really need to consistently remind people who you help, what you help them with, and what they're going to get out of reading this post, right? And I know that it sounds a lot, but I'm going to give you some templates and strategies on how to start doing that. But what I want to reinforce here is that your hooks are super important. And when I'm auditing people's content and profile, what I notice is that their hooks are really vague, which means their target audience isn't going to click that read more button. And so you need to think of your hook as a headline for a newspaper article, for example. Like if your headline isn't strong, people aren't going to read the article. And most people just scroll headlines anyways. So that hook really needs to make you stand out. So here's an example from someone's content who I audited towards the beginning of the year. This is somebody who was very active on LinkedIn and she was doing a great job, but when I looked at her positioning, it wasn't automatically clear who she helped and how she helped them. Like only dedicated followers would have really known what she was about, but somebody who's landing on her profile and her content for the first time would have to dig to really understand, who she helped and what her area of expertise was. And here's a couple of examples of hooks that she was using for her content that I recommended that she change. One hook started like this: grab a coffee with me and let's talk about something that's on my mind. Fraud and AI. Now, think about that for a minute. Would you stop and read that post? Like when I read it, I don't find it particularly compelling as a reader. I am always going to be filtering the information I'm coming across as to whether or not it's interesting to me, not to the person writing the content. Okay, so I know that sounds harsh, but that's how we consume content. It has to be relevant to us. Otherwise, we scroll past. And so when I come across a hook that says, grab a coffee with me and let's talk about something that's on my mind, that hook is centered on the person writing the piece of content, what's interesting to them, but it doesn't tell me why this is interesting to me. Okay. So this person helps internal auditors and consulting teams to deliver high quality, credible audit work, right? That's very specific. But when her content starts with, let's talk about fraud and AI, that's very broad. If I'm an auditor, it's not clear to me why I should stop and read this post. So I suggested that she change the hook to, hey, if you're an internal auditor, here's what you need to know about fraud and AI moving into 2026, right? See how that hook is calling out her target audience. I'm saying, hey, if you're this type of professional, this is essential information moving into 2026. So it's time sensitive and it creates that curiosity of, I don't want to miss out on this extremely relevant information for my niche, right? And it's vastly different than saying, hey, grab a coffee with me and let's talk about what's on my mind today. Okay. And so my bet is that your content is also starting with hooks that sound way too vague and that aren't stopping your target audience as they scroll through the feed, because it's the number one issue that I see with pretty much everybody that I work with. And I have to say, writing short form content is a very specific skill because you have to pack a lot of value into just a very few amount of words. And it has to sound like exciting, relevant, time sensitive. Like you have to pack a lot of emotions into your content to get people to consume it. Okay, so next I want to give you an example of a hook that positions the author as an expert. And this comes from a client of mine who's a psychotherapy professional. A few years back, she had a health crisis, which is when she changed her diet and nutrition. And so, even though she's a psychotherapist, once a month, she likes to promote locally grown and produced vegetables because it's what helped her get her health back on track. And in the past, when she would write about vegetables, she would start her post by saying, it's time for the big veggie takeover, which was jarring because her content is usually about her specialty in psychotherapy. And then suddenly you see a post that seems so completely off brand that I was like, okay, no, we need to fix it. And digging into her story, I realized, okay, this is actually part of your brand story because self-care is important as a psychotherapy professional. You also overcame this health crisis, which also helped with your personal journey as a psychotherapist of understanding yourself better and caring for yourself. And so it fits into her brand story. We just need to tell this story so it positions her as an expert and doesn't sound like we're posting about something completely random. And so going back to this client's hooks, I'm going to give you the before and after example. So before, she'd say, it's time for the big veggie takeover, highlighting local, seasonal, organic veg. And now the post about the same topic starts with this hook. Working and living as a psychotherapist, self-care is a must for me. Now, this second version is a lot stronger as far as positioning because in that first sentence, she is reinforcing what she's an expert in by just calling out her profession. And so that helps people remember, oh, this is what she does. And then the story that she tells is a lot more in line with her brand and with her expert positioning and doesn't sound totally random. This is a lot better as far as the algorithm understanding who you are, what you do, and who they need to show your content to. And it's also a lot better for people reading your content so they understand why they should care. And in fact, this client who we've been working with together for several months now, her posts are getting more views and she's getting a ton of connection requests from her target audience, like relevant people want to connect with her. And it's because they perceive her as an authority, right? So, super important. And this is a reminder that if your content isn't giving you the results that you would like it to, start here. Look at your hooks and make sure that they either position you as an expert or that they call out your target audience. That way, people who are scrolling the feed will see your hooks and know that your posts are for them. So, I hope this was helpful. And if you want help improving your positioning, I offer a 60-minute consultation where we review your profile, your content, your messaging, and I help you identify what's not working and what you can do to strengthen your positioning so that you walk away knowing exactly what you need to do next. You can book your session with me using the link in the show notes. Thank you so much for listening, and I will talk to you next week.